Imagine opening a map from hundreds of years ago and coming across an entire island that simply never existed. That's right. For centuries, navigators, cartographers, and explorers swore these places were out there, somewhere in the middle of the ocean, waiting to be discovered. But as time went on, we realized that some of these mysterious spots were illusions, mistakes, or even inventions. The truth is, before satellites and GPS, the world map was a giant puzzle. Each journey added new pieces, but also new errors. And the most intriguing part, many of these non-existent places kept appearing on official maps for hundreds of years, confusing entire generations. What does this mean? It means that for a long time the world was full of cartographic ghosts, islands that never existed, imaginary continents, lands that seemed to appear and vanish like mirages. But hold on, don't think these were just innocent mistakes. Some of these mysterious places have stories so curious, they sound like they're straight out of an adventure movie. It's as if the map itself was a treasure with false clues, ready to deceive any explorer. To kick off this journey into the impossible, let's talk about one of the most famous islands in history. One that appeared on so many maps that it still leaves researchers scratching their heads. Now brace yourself. For centuries, European navigators believed in the existence of an island called Hy-Brasil. No, it's not in Brazil, though the name might confuse you. This phantom island appeared on maps as early as the 14th century, always located west of Ireland, lost in the Atlantic. And the strangest part, it wasn't just a one-off. It was marked on various maps by different cartographers as if it were a sure destination waiting to be reached. Some accounts claimed Hy-Brasil was shrouded in a magical mist and could only be seen every 7 years. Mysticism? Maybe. But back then, that was enough to fuel legends and expeditions. Picture the scene. Sailors braving storms, believing they were on the verge of finding a rich, mysterious, and even supernatural land. And the craziest part? Many claimed to have come close. Some even swore they set foot on it. But nothing was ever proven. The fascination was so great that official expeditions were launched to find Hy-Brasil. And unbelievably, this island kept being drawn on maps until the 19th century. That's over 400 years of illusion. It's as if the entire world believed in a collective mirage. But Hy-Brasil isn't the only one. There are other cartographic ghosts even stranger, which baffled explorers and still intrigue historians today. After Hy-Brasil, another island that drove navigators wild was the enigmatic St. Brendan's Island. The story begins with a 6th century Irish monk named Brendan, who set off on an epic journey across the Atlantic in search of the earthly paradise. Legend has it, he found an island of wonders, filled with exotic animals and even angels disguised as men. Here's the kicker. Centuries later, cartographers started marking this island on maps as if it were real. It appeared in the middle of the ocean, in different locations, as if it had the power to move. Incredible, right? And it didn't stop there. During the Middle Ages, St. Brendan's Island became a true myth. Many believed it was a sacred place, hidden from human eyes, but accessible to the chosen few. Others thought it was just another mirage mistaken for bits of land or volcanic formations in the sea. But imagine the impact. Sailors enduring months of travel, believing they were sailing toward a celestial island. For them, it wasn't just a dot on the map. It was the promise of finding something beyond human understanding. And just like Hy-Brasil, St. Brendan's Island remained on official maps for centuries, confusing even seasoned explorers. But there's more. Islands that not only vanished but also fooled modern scientists. Now get ready for a surprise. Even in the 21st century, we were still tricked by a phantom island. I'm talking about the mysterious Sandy Island, which for years appeared on maps, atlases, and even modern software like Google Earth. It was marked in the South Pacific near New Caledonia, described as an elongated island, 24 kilometers long. But no one ever set foot there. In 2012, an Australian research vessel decided to investigate up close. They sailed right to the coordinates, and guess what? Nothing. Absolutely nothing but deep ocean. The wildest part? This island had been recorded on maps since the 19th century, even by French scientists. How did it get there? One theory is that ancient ships mistook floating pumice stones, expelled by underwater volcanoes, for solid land. Another is simply a coordinate error that perpetuated for generations. Now think about it. In the age of satellites, with all our cutting-edge technology, we still believed in an island that didn't exist. It's as if High Brazil had leaped through time and fooled even Google. And Sandy wasn't alone. There are other modern phantom islands that persisted on maps until very recently, and some have even stranger stories. Now hold on to this one. There's an island that not only vanished from maps, but also sparked an international controversy. I'm talking about the enigmatic Bermeja Island, which for centuries appeared on nautical charts off the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The earliest records date back to the 16th century, made by Spanish explorers. On many subsequent maps, there it was, marked in red as a strategic point in the Gulf of Mexico. But when modern researchers tried to find it, nothing, no trace of solid land. And then the conspiracy theories began. Had the island simply sunk, swallowed by the sea? Or was it deliberately erased? Because, curiously, the island's existence affected the delimitation of oil-rich maritime zones between Mexico and the United States. If Bermeja existed, it would give Mexico more territory. If not, advantage to the US. Coincidence or not, the island vanished from maps right when this dispute was at stake. Officially, modern expeditions claim the island never existed. But even today, some swear it was submerged or even erased for political reasons. Imagine this, an island that mysteriously disappears and could shift the balance of power over oil. It sounds like the plot of a spy movie, but it really happened. And if Bermeja stirs controversy, the next story is even more fascinating. An entire continent that almost made it onto maps but never existed. If you thought inventing phantom islands was strange, imagine creating an entire continent. That's exactly what happened with the legendary Terra Australis Incognita, which in Latin means unknown southern land. During the Middle Ages and much of the Age of Exploration, people believed there had to be a massive landmass in the southern hemisphere, balancing the weight of the northern continents. It wasn't just a scientific hypothesis, it was almost an obsession. And maps from the time showed this gigantic continent stretching across the globe. Explorers believed they might find unimaginable riches, fertile lands, and even unknown civilizations. But of course, none of this was ever confirmed. Over time, expeditions revealed that the so-called Terra Australis was a myth, or rather, a mathematical necessity invented by the geographers of the time. The curious detail: this myth paved the way for real discoveries. After all, it was the search for this mysterious land that led European navigators to explore regions like Australia and New Zealand. It's as if the invention guided the way to true conquests. Now, think about this. How many journeys, how many maps, and even how many lives were shaped by a continent that never existed? It sounds unbelievable. But hold on, we're not done yet. There's another cartographic ghost that left its mark even on modern maps, fooling Pacific explorers for decades. After the legends of Terra Australis, let's head back to the Pacific to talk about another enigma, the so-called Davis Island, also known as David's Island. This island started appearing on maps in the 17th century, recorded by European explorers who claimed to have sighted solid land in the vast ocean. It's believed that the first to describe it was the English privateer Edward Davis in 1687. He reported that in the middle of the Pacific's expanse, he found a large island with mountains visible in the distance. His account was so convincing that cartographers didn't hesitate to include it on maps, and thus another phantom island was born. For centuries, expeditions searched for this island to no avail. And the most curious part, Davis Island was recorded in renowned atlases, appearing as a strategic point in the ocean well into the 19th century. But with every attempt to find it, frustration grew. Some scholars believe the privateer may have mistaken cloud formations for distant mountains or perhaps temporary volcanic islets that later sank beneath the sea. Others think it might have been a pure invention to lend credibility to his travel tales. And the most fascinating thing is to consider how much time, effort, and money were spent chasing an island that was never there. It's like pursuing a mirage that insists on staying hidden. But hold on. There's yet another even more enigmatic example that seems to have played a game of now you see it, now you don't on maps, the legendary Thompson Island. Among the most intriguing cartographic ghosts is the mysterious Thompson Island. It emerged in 19th century reports when navigators claimed to have sighted a solitary island in the middle of the Pacific, between Chile and Easter Island. Captain George Thompson, who allegedly made the first record, described solid land with clarity, and just like that, it earned a spot on official maps. The curious detail? Later expeditions tried to locate it, but found nothing. And this didn't happen just once. For decades, ships returned to the same spot, convinced that Thompson couldn't have simply vanished, yet nothing but open sea. Some historians suggest it was a mix-up with sandbanks, or even temporary volcanic islands, formed by underwater eruptions that later sank back into the ocean. Others argue it was just a navigational error, common in an era when pinpointing an exact location at sea was incredibly difficult. And the most astonishing part? Thompson Island kept appearing in atlases and globes well into the mid-20th century. That's right. For much of the last century, children and students learned about an island that simply didn't exist. Isn't it incredible to think that a simple mistake could gain the status of reality for so long? And if you think you've heard it all, get ready. Because in the next section we'll talk about islands that appeared not just by mistake, but perhaps by pure invention. So far, we've seen illusions, mirages, and navigational errors. But what about when an island never existed because someone made it up? That's right. Centuries ago, it was common for cartographers to add fake islands to their maps. Why? To protect their work from plagiarism. Here's how it worked. If another cartographer copied the entire map and included the non-existent island, it proved the theft. It was like a secret signature, a watermark disguised as territory. A famous example is the so-called Freeland Island, which appeared on dozens of European maps between the 16th and 17th centuries. It was located between Scotland and Greenland, depicted as a massive, detailed landmass as if it were an entire country. But in reality, there was nothing there. Even so, Friesland was considered real for nearly 200 years. Now imagine the impact. Expeditions organized, money spent, ships sent to find an island that was deliberately placed there. It's almost like the ultimate cartographic prank, and this reveals something fascinating. Ancient maps weren't just scientific records, but also tools of power, politics, and even vanity. But hold on, we're not done yet. There's still the grand finale. How these cartographic ghosts remind us of something essential about human knowledge to this day. In the end, ancient maps are like mirrors of our desire to explore the unknown. Every phantom island, every invented continent wasn't just a mistake, but a reflection of human imagination. They show us that before technology, the world was a much more mysterious place, full of gaps that curiosity filled with legends and illusions. And let's be honest, that hasn't changed much. Today we have satellites, telescopes, and supercomputers, but we still stumble over our own sandy islands, ideas that seem solid until we discover they're just mirages. The difference is that now our maps are digital, but the curiosity remains the same. Imagine the thrill of a sailor who believed they were just kilometers away from high Brazil, or the frustration of a scientist who sailed to Sandy's coordinates and found only water. These stories remind us that human knowledge is built on trial, error, and discovery, some real, some invented, but all fascinating. And maybe that's exactly what makes these cartographic ghosts so irresistible. They remind us that behind the maps, there was always an explorer dreaming of what might lie beyond the horizon. Now I ask you, which of these mysterious islands intrigued you the most? Do you think any of them might have actually existed, or was it all just a mirage? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell because we always have stories that seem unbelievable, but really happened.